Well, good evening. The cataclysmic plane crash in Ahmedabad has sent shockwaves across India, etching an indelible mark of sorrow and grief on a fateful day. Air India Flight AI 171, that's a state-of-the-art Boeing 787 Dreamliner that you see here, embarked on a journey from Ahmedabad to London's Gatwick Airport, only to meet a tragic end just seconds after takeoff. The aircraft, carrying 242 passengers and crew members on board, crashed into a hostel for doctors at a medical college, unleashing a maelstrom of destruction and chaos. As the plane took to the skies, hopes and dreams soared with it, but fate had other plans quite clearly. The mayday call sent by the pilot still echoes in our minds, a haunting precursor to the impending disaster. The subsequent silence is a testament to the severity of the situation. It's left air traffic controllers and those on the ground in a state of panic and helplessness. The images from the crash site are seared into our collective consciousness, a thick plume of grey smoke billowing into the sky, the wreckage of the aircraft strewn across the ground, and the anguished faces of those who rushed to the scene. The swift response of emergency services, with at least 24 ambulances rushing to the site, is small solace in the face of such overwhelming tragedy. As India mourns, questions swirl around the circumstances leading to this horrific incident. Was a technical glitch, human error, or some other factors the causes of this catastrophe? The investigation, which will be conducted with diligence and transparency, will hopefully provide answers and help to prevent such tragedies in the future. The Ahmedabad plane crash is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of aviation safety. In this hour of grief, NDTV, we stand in solidarity with the people of Ahmedabad, the nation, the families of those on board this aircraft. We offer our deepest condolences to those affected. With that, we're going to move on very closely with all of the details. What I'd like to do now is actually play out this footage and describe what exactly took place. So let's just cue up this footage to the very beginning because this aircraft was in the air for just 30 seconds. So if we can show the takeoff run, then we can actually show that while it was in the process of taking off, right, it appeared to be operating normally. It did take off, it did soar into the skies, but shortly thereafter, all lift collapsed. It veered somewhat to the left and it crashed. It was operational in the air. It was in the air for just about 32 seconds by the time that it actually went down. So that's all that it was managed to fly for. This is a critical new video which is emerging. What would be nice is if we could roll out the entire run. We're going to do that in a little while from now, but 30 seconds is all that it took, by which time it crashed. It crashed on top of a hostel for medical students. We are unclear at this juncture on the number of people injured or who have died as a result of this crash on the ground. There is one survivor, miraculously someone who was sitting at seat 11A of this aircraft who did survive. Now, this is the full footage. It comes from Ahmedabad Airport. Let's roll that footage. What you can see is the Boeing 787-8, 11 years and 5 months old, bound from Ahmedabad, taking off over there. It would have taken off only if it reached what is called V1 or decision height, when the pilots would have pulled back on the yoke and the aircraft would have taken off. It did use the entire length of the runway. On some occasions that may not be necessary. But after rising to an altitude of approximately 600 to 800 feet, I'm slightly unclear about that, it lost lift, as you can see, and it collapsed. It mushed into the ground on top of a building, and all the passengers on board, other than one passenger, 241 people, we believe, have lost their lives. Whether there's more than one passenger who has survived or not, we do not know. Again, as importantly, we do not know about casualties on the ground at this stage. But I think this video, which is the second angle we've got of this horrific disaster, tells a real story of the aircraft actually reaching a speed in which a takeoff was feasible. It took off into the skies. In terms of the timeline, it was at about 1:40 p.m. when it took off, and there was a mayday call within that 30 seconds from the moment where you saw the aircraft taking off to the moment when it stopped flying. Essentially, it stalled and went into the ground. It crashed not within 22 minutes, but this is new footage we now have that indicates that it flew for just about 30 odd seconds, and then it crashed. The entire sequence of the takeoff itself would have lasted perhaps a minute or so more, but the actual flight time was 30 seconds. Now, this brought lots of people out in the area. This is a busy residential area in Ahmedabad. It crashed atop a building. Components of the aircraft over there. The big focus now, along with international investigators, not just from the DGCA, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, but also investigators from the United Kingdom and the United States and from Boeing itself. They will be looking for the black box of this aircraft. All right, we've got our correspondent, Shiv Kumar Sharma, who joins us from Ahmedabad. All right, we've got, I'm sorry, who do we have? We've got Oli Bharat, who joins us from Gatwick. Let's just quickly go across. Thank you very much for being with us. There must be enormous horror among families, loved ones, friends who are waiting for people on this aircraft to reach Gatwick. Have they gone to the airport? Have they been advised by the airline? How are people looking into this?
Yeah, well, bear in mind the plane unfortunately crashed hours before it would have arrived here at Gatwick Airport, still around 4 hours from now before the plane would have been due to land here at London's second busiest airport. What Gatwick Airport are saying is that they have set up a reception centre here for families of people who were on board the flight, and Gatwick Airport saying they are liaising closely, they say, with Air India, and they say their thoughts are with family and friends of those on board. Clearly a huge amount of shock at this airport, but also more widely in the United Kingdom. We've heard recently from King Charles and Queen Camilla, who have expressed being desperately shocked, they say, by the terrible events. They say their special prayers and deepest possible sympathy go out to people involved, and they are paying what they call a particular tribute to the heroic efforts of the emergency service and on all those providing help. The other update we've just got recently, having heard earlier in the day that the UK would be prepared to offer any support that India may want in this rescue operation and indeed the investigation, we've now heard confirmation from the Air Accidents Investigation Branch that it has formally offered its assistance to the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau in India. The AAIB say that they will have expert status in that Indian investigation because there were, of course, those 53 UK citizens on the plane, and the AAIB saying that they are deploying what they call a multidisciplinary investigation team to India to support the Indian-led investigation. AAIB also saying that their thoughts are with all those affected by this tragic accident.
Is the investigation at this stage not only in terms of this particular crash, but the Boeing 787 is used by airlines across the world. This is the first fatal incident involving a Boeing 787. Therefore, what investigators find out would have a bearing on airlines around the world.
Absolutely, it will do. And airports around the world, like Gatwick, where I'm standing now, where many of these aircraft fly on a daily basis and have done for years without any accidents of this type before. And that's part of the reason that this accident involving this Dreamliner has sent such shockwaves through the aviation here in the UK, in India, but also across the world, the United States, where the company that makes these planes is based too. The Dreamliner has had this very impressive, up to this point, safety record that Boeing has often pointed to as one of its success stories. And so that's, as you quite rightly point to, one of the reasons that this accident in India has sent such shockwaves through airports, but also airlines, passengers, the aviation industry really across the world.
Oli Bharat, thank you very much for being with us. Thanks very much indeed. Well, joining us at this stage, Dr. Vandana Singh, chairperson of the Aviation Cargo Federation, Aviation Industry in India, and Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor as well. Thank you both very much for being with us. Air Marshal Kapoor, in light of this new video, which we can roll out now once again, it shows a different angle. It shows the entire takeoff run of this Boeing 787. It flew for approximately 30 seconds before crashing. You can see the moment where it stops climbing any further and it went down. Based on this new video, do you have any new thoughts? We've been talking to you throughout the day.
Vishnu, what I gather from this video is that the highest point, I was watching in some other channel, the ADS-B has given a height of 425 feet from above the ground level as the maximum height which the aircraft has attained. And they have calculated the rate of descent at around 475 feet per minute. So that gives from the highest point at the end of the runway about 50 odd seconds before impact to the crew. Now, in this 50 seconds which the crew has got, they've been able to give a mayday call. And rest, I'm sure they would be working in the cockpit to see whether to get the things going, how to get the thrust back. Various factors could be, put across for this kind of a loss. If you see the video which I am seeing now on your channel, it's a gentle mushing into the ground. The attitude of the nose is very high, so it indicates low speed. Now, one thing which has happened, but which I would like to put across through your channel to the viewers and the people, the decision makers, is that we need to have a serious look at the buildings and obstacles which have come around our airfields. Hypothetically, if there was a clear area ahead, hypothetically, we wouldn't have lost anybody on ground. And if the aircraft with this attitude of mushing into the ground had put down in a clear patch the aircraft, I'm sure there would have been many, many survivors, much more. So one thing that the action which the government through Civil Aviation Ministry and internal mechanism with the various state governments and departments will have to take is to have a relook at the approach and the takeoff funnel. We, when we fly, we are very wary of the large amount of obstacles which have come up recently. The buildings, heights, though the clearances are given, but the regulatory body to monitor the TV towers or the dishes or the antennas or the water tanks or the other structures which have come up in this approach funnel is something which we will have to look at. And secondly, this attitude which is going down is indicated that the crew must have opened full throttle, full power. The height is not adequate to be converted onto speed. We trade off in flying height versus speed. So if the aircraft had a little more height, they would have lowered the attitude, build up speed, and thereafter tried to clean up the aeroplane by taking all the drag devices in. But in this case, the crew must have been very busy for those 45 to 50 seconds, whatever the time they have got after the call before impact, to somehow get the things going. That is my thought at this stage.
Air Marshal, what is significant is that there was enough power in the engines for it to get to what's called V1, the speed at the decision speed beyond which you are bound to actually take off. Even if there's an engine failure, with the second engine, you should have enough power to actually continue climbing. There didn't appear to be anything terribly wrong in that takeoff run. The pilots obviously felt that they had enough speed behind them. Something appears to have gone wrong right at the end, as they were in the process of taking off.
See, at this stage, just a little before this, it has reached the highest point of this flight. The aircraft has flown in from Delhi to Ahmedabad. So the other parameters of the engines and the other systems would have worked perfectly fine. That's how the aircraft has come from from Delhi to Ahmedabad. The aircraft would have just refueled, loaded on the passengers and on way. Of course, the contributory factors which I've been telling on your channel since afternoon could have been, high temperatures, full load, max fuel, the other performance parameters. They're all contributory factors to recover the aircraft much better. But there are onboard computers which give you all the performance parameters, which tell you the V1. V1 is the speed, it is the decision-making speed. And there is something called as VR, that is the rotation speed. So the aircraft first approaches the V1, then it goes to the VR speed. So VR is the speed at which that is the velocity at which the aircraft is rotated to get airborne. And that depends on a lot of factors and has a lot of performance things embedded into that, and that includes weight, altitude, temperature, and other factors. So I'm sure the computers and the crew would have seen all this. That's why they got airborne. Now something here has happened here exactly in the video now that has allowed the aircraft to mesh into ground. Now, what could that be? Would be emerging after the. And
Black
I was.
boxes are found. Just some more information coming in at this stage. Air India is organizing 2 relief flights, one each from Delhi and Mumbai to Ahmedabad for the next of kin and passengers and Air India staff. Details of the flights are being shared. It's out on their Twitter page. We'll try and have that out on our website as well. But there's a flight from Delhi to Ahmedabad, Ahmedabad to Delhi, Mumbai to Ahmedabad, Ahmedabad to Mumbai. The next of kin of passengers and staff in Delhi and Mumbai wanting to travel on these flights can contact a hotline number, and that number is out there in the Air India tweet. So if you are somebody who is a friend or a family member of somebody who was on this flight and you want to get to Ahmedabad, Air India has opened up this way of doing that. Additionally, those coming in from international destinations and wanting to travel can call our hotline, and they've given a number as well. So this is what the airline is doing. The CMD of Air India, Campbell Wilson, also spoke a little while back where he said that the airline is doing whatever it can to help and that the process of investigations will start immediately, but it might take a little bit of time. So they're looking very, very closely at all of these links, all of these various angles to try and figure out what exactly has taken place. That's what we know. Dr. Vandana Singh, any thoughts, on what you see? And it's the first crash of a Boeing 787 Dreamliner.
Thank you, Vishnu, for having me on your show. It's an honor. What we see, of course, is heartbreaking because the Dreamliner has got a very robust history, and Dreamliner is a pretty healthy, safe aircraft. Of course, there have been a lot of theories, a lot of speculations, and only the real thing will come out when the black box or the flight data recorder is out and the investigating authorities come out with actually what happened. What we see here in the video is that it was tail heavy, and probably from what I am seeing is that there was a massive electrical or a software system failure which caused total electrical, what you call FADEC, full authority digital engine control, to fail. And then the aircraft came down. Again, this is a speculation. And why I'm saying this, Vishnu, is because I was hearing a passenger who was on the same flight from New Delhi to Ahmedabad. And this is the same equipment that took off from Ahmedabad for Gatwick. Now, he clearly mentioned that the air conditioning was not working inside the aircraft at all. However, people said, wow, it's just about an hour's flight or so, we will bear it out. And normally, somebody who would wear a full sleeves was probably taking off the jacket and sitting and fanning themselves up. So the air conditioning, as I understand, and you will hear from other passengers as well, which were on the incoming flight of the same equipment that was not working, which tells me that this could be a full electrical failure. And by the time the pilot realized it, the takeoff happened. And then it suddenly came down, and we can see that it came down without gaining any lift. It could not gain any lift. So
the air conditioning is closely linked, I would suggest, to the pressurization within the aircraft. And for a very long flight, this would have been something which they would have checked out before they allowed the aircraft to actually take off. We've seen flights operate with air conditioning being faulty and, not of the requisite standard. He also pointed out, this passenger, that the in-flight entertainment system wasn't working. Now, that is unlikely to be linked in any way to this crash. So, meanwhile, we've got some more footage which is actually coming in. This is from that hostel, a part of the undercarriage, the main undercarriage. There on your screens, it crashed into this hostel. This is where doctors were being trained. It was lunchtime or so. There were students in the canteen at that stage. At this stage, we still aren't hearing enough about how many survivors there were on the ground, if indeed people have lost their lives or everybody escaped. But miraculously, I just like to repeat once again that one passenger seated in seat number 11A on this Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner did in fact walk away and was entirely safe, minor injuries, but is safe after this. And we'll have that video out of that survivor as well, because, I mean, it's a cliche to say it's a miracle, but really something like this, when an aircraft has got 80 to 90 tons of fuel, aviation turbine fuel on board, fully loaded for an 8-9 hour flight, to actually walk away from that is something else. So let's see if we can bring up that footage of that survivor as well. Meanwhile, the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch has formally offered its... right, so that's the survivor on the screen. This man just walks away with a limp. He was taken to hospital subsequently, but it's just unbelievable that he did survive, and it's a miracle. He was in seat 11A. We do not know if there are any other survivors, because there was a statement from the Air India managing director as well, where he said, seemed to suggest that those who have been injured have been taken to hospital. Again, I'm slightly unclear if that means there was more than one survivor from this plane crash. In fact, if we can cue up that soundbite of the Air India CMD, Campbell Wilson, we should play that out very, very soon. So that's that one survivor over there. Meanwhile, the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch has formally offered its assistance to the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau in India. The UK AAIB will have expert status in the Indian safety investigation. This is in accordance with the ICAO, which monitors international civil aviation, the International Civil Aviation Organization, Annex 13, because UK citizens were on board the aircraft. Remember, more than 50 British nationals were killed. There were more than 160 Indian nationals on board who lost their lives, more than 50 British nationals who lost their lives. There were 7 Portuguese nationals on board. There was 1 Canadian on board. And then, of course, crew members, 2 pilots and several members of the cabin crew on board. The UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch is deploying a multidisciplinary investigation team to India to support the Indian-led investigation. They say their thoughts are with all of those affected. British nationals who require consular access or have concerns have been given a number as well. It's important for people to check out the British government websites. Now, the Ministry of Civil Aviation has set up a joint operational control room, in fact more than one, in view of the situation. They are monitoring activities after observing the impact of the crash on civil aviation. It's being manned by officers from the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, the Bureau of Civil Aviation, BCAS, the CISF, the Airports Authority of India, Air Traffic Control, and the Airports Operations Department of the Airport Authority of India, who are requesting. They are requested to ensure that officials from all of these organizations are placed on duty in the joint control room. So this is part of an order. The National Disaster Relief Force also was involved in trying to get people out, as I understand it. So a few details, and again, this is based on what people are talking about. Again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, so we're just cautiously reporting this. The final minutes in the cockpit, what may have happened. The pilots took off from the runway. The new video that we have shows that the aircraft appears to have reached a requisite speed to pull up. The pilots did pull up. They reached what was called V1, which is decision height. But could there have been meager thrust? Quite clearly, it may well have been the case that there wasn't enough thrust, which was generated from the 2 engines, either GE, Gen X engines, which to propel the aircraft to a proper altitude. The pilots left their landing gear down. This is expected in a situation like this. They were fighting with a very serious situation. The aircraft, remember, crashed 30 seconds after taking off. Could the pilots have activated an auto-slat system to improve the lift performance of the aircraft? Some would suggest that it was too late at that stage. They did issue a mayday call. So between the moment that they pulled up to try and take off and the time the aircraft went down, they did issue a mayday call, but that by itself is no evidence. The lift of the aircraft, as the video shows, clearly did decay. It mushed into the ground. It was in a nose-up attitude. That's again expected, but it just went down. And you can see that right over here. That's the point where it started going down, crashing into all of those buildings. So that's what we have at that stage. Air Marshal, let me come back to you at this stage. How crucial is it to quickly find the flight data recorders, the black box as it were, because we really need to know what went wrong. The 787 in service with airlines around the world. Air India itself operates many Dreamliners.
See, as we speak, the effort would be on to locate the FDR and CVR, as we call. The whole thing will have to be collaborated fast because, as per the ICAO directions, there would be agencies from Europe, FAA, Boeing, and our own AIB would be constituted in a part of the complete team, which will go into this accident investigation. I did mention in some other channels that many times in the previous accidents, they have co-opted certain investigating members from the Indian Air Force. Indian Air Force is the only organization in this country which runs a specialized accident prevention and accident investigation course. And it's a certified course for 3 months. And large amount of people from across civil aviation and certain bodies do come and attend this course. So one of the recommendations through your forum I would like to make, because India has got the fastest aviation market in the world, civil aviation. So in the coming days, the air traffic is going to go up, and these kind of regulatory aircraft accident prevention and investigations are going to happen more in the coming years.
Got a statement from Tata Trust at this stage. Noel Tata, remember Air India is a Tata airline. It's owned by the Tatas. We are deeply saddened by the tragic accident involving Air India Flight 171 on its journey from Ahmedabad to London. This heart-wrenching incident has brought immense grief to countless families, and our thoughts are with all those who have lost their loved ones today. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families and stand in solidarity with them during this unimaginable time. We offer our prayers and support as they navigate this profound loss. Now, there have been several reactions from Air India as well. We'll be playing out the statement of the Air India CMD Campbell Wilson in a little while from now. But let's just continue going through all of the information that we have at this stage. Again, a reminder for our viewers who might have loved ones or friends on that aircraft. There are flights which are being organized from even abroad, or certainly from Mumbai and from Delhi to Ahmedabad, in case you want to get over there. Also, an Air India flight from Gatwick to Goa has been cancelled, reports the Associated Press. After the airline's earlier crash, the flight to Manohar International Airport has been scheduled to depart about 2 hours after the flight from Ahmedabad was supposed to land. I think this was that same aircraft which may have been bound for Goa. I'm not sure entirely about that, but that's been obviously cancelled with this aircraft not going in. Now, the Prime Minister is monitoring this. The Chief Minister, the Civil Aviation Minister has been on the spot. The Home Minister is there. There have been messages of condolences from around the world. President Murmu from the United States, from the United Kingdom, from the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom. The images that you see are of the Civil Aviation Minister. I thought I saw Amit Shah, the Home Minister, as well, a little while earlier on. There is one survivor. I repeat this because truly him getting out of this has been a real miracle. The Dreamliner aircraft has been in service since 2009. It's the first fatal crash. Stocks of Boeing have absolutely plunged. There have been concerns on the quality of manufacturing of the Dreamliner, but this is an aircraft which has been in service for 11 years and 5 months. And given the safety record of the aircraft across airlines, I think it's too early to presume that there is something larger or systemic, which is the real worry across 787 Dreamliner fleets across the world. But that would be the central goal of investigators coming in not just from the United Kingdom, but from the United States as well. The FAA would have their investigators, Boeing would have their investigators. So again, at this juncture, we don't know what happened, but obviously this sudden loss of thrust on a state-of-the-art aircraft, a fly-by-wire aircraft with multiple redundancies on board, by which I mean there are backups to various systems, from the engines to the flight management system, a lot of this. All right, so this is now very heartbreaking footage which is coming up on the screen. DNA tests are being conducted of those people, of the families of those who have lost their lives, because and that clearly indicates that bodies are charred beyond recognition. These bodies will not be identifiable by and large. I mean, just the fact that there was this one survivor who walked away is a miracle. But throughout the day of reporting this and sort of seeing all of this footage and anchoring all of this, we've not really seen bodies being removed from that site, and therefore blood samples for DNA is absolutely critical. Without this, these loved ones may not be able to locate the remains of their loved ones. And this is just such a horrific situation now coming in. But this is something that needs to be done very, very quickly. Just imagine the state of these loved ones, these family members and friends who are having to give their blood samples for DNA to be collected in order for the remains of the bodies of their friends, loved ones, be identified. And that's a process which I dare say will take a considerable amount of time as well. Other airlines in India, including Indigo, a message from Peter Elbers, the CEO of Indigo: "My thoughts and prayers are with passengers, crew and their families. Our deepest condolences for families and loved ones. The entire Indigo family stands in solidarity and united in spirit with our colleagues at Air India in this very, very difficult time." So there is a multidisciplinary team which has been deployed by the United Kingdom. Remember, there were more than 50 British nationals on board this aircraft. They are sending an air accident team to India. There have been many more reactions which have come in from leaders across the world. We'll try and bring that out for you in a little while from now. Let me go back to our studio guests at this stage. Dr. Vandana Singh, any thoughts that come in as we see this, very sad footage of family members having to give blood samples, perhaps the clearest sort of information at this stage that, it's not going to be easy to identify those who've been killed?
It's heart-wrenching, Vishnu, because you're going on a takeoff when the aircraft is taking off. As we all know, it's fully loaded with fuel, and aviation fuel is highly combustible. So obviously they are charred bodies, and this is a horrific picture that we are seeing in front of us. But this is the reality. Having said that, as I mentioned, 787-8, this has got a robust health culture. So these aircrafts have been doing pretty much well, and it really remains to be seen as to what actually went suddenly, that made the aircraft come down. This is actually heartbreaking to see that picture, but then that is the reality. What I would really like to know is from that passenger on 11 Alpha who has actually walked off, that what was his experience and what did he feel. That should also tell us a lot, because we heard the passenger incoming from Delhi to Ahmedabad and the same equipment going from Ahmedabad to Gatwick. And he mentioned air conditioning and he mentioned entertainment system, and we can say that this has got no link. And of course, this must have been rectified at Ahmedabad, and all the regulatory checks by Air India, ground handling, engineering, everything done. Having said that, for an aircraft with that robust culture to go up and then suddenly not have that lift or that thrust and come down, bang, that tells a lot. So that passenger on 11 Alpha is intriguing me right now. And I really want to know, of course, the gentleman would be in a state of shock, but it would be nice to know what he felt and what he gathered from whatever little he saw in those 59 seconds or 50 seconds.
I think that's absolutely critical, and I'm sure they would be speaking to him. He walked away from that crash, the passenger in seat 11A. How he did that, he was obviously thrown out of the aircraft or managed to sort of get out somehow or the other. Unbelievable. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has sent in a message, a tweet. "Heartbroken to hear the news of a tragic plane crash in Ahmedabad, India. My prayers are with all those who lost their loved ones in this horrible incident. We continue to monitor developments and stand with the emergency responders working to help those impacted." We've also got a statement now from Campbell Wilson, the Air India CMD. He was on his way to the Paris Air Show on another Air India flight when word got out of this massive crash. That aircraft was diverted back to Delhi, and I believe he's now in Ahmedabad, but he has issued this statement. Let's listen in.
I am Campbell Wilson, the CEO of Air India. I want to brief you on a serious incident that involved an Air India aircraft a short while ago. But first, and most importantly, I would like to express our deep sorrow about this event. This is a difficult day for all of us at Air India, and our efforts now are focused entirely on the needs of our passengers, crew members, their families and loved ones. I know that there are many questions, and at this stage, I will not be able to answer all of them, but I do want to share the information we have at this time. Air India flight AI 171 operated with a Boeing 787-8 aircraft traveling from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick has been involved in an accident after takeoff. Flight AI 171 was carrying 230 passengers and 12 crew members on board. Of the passengers, 169 are Indian nationals, 53 are British nationals, there are 7 Portuguese nationals, and 1 Canadian national. The injured passengers have been taken by local authorities to the nearest hospitals. We are actively working with the authorities on all emergency response efforts. A special team of caregivers from Air India is on their way to Ahmedabad to provide additional support. The investigations will take time, but anything we can do now, we are doing. We know that many people are concerned for the welfare of their loved ones. We have set up a special helpline that friends and family can reach us at. The number is 1-800-5691-444. That is 1-800-5691-444. We understand that people are eager for information. Please know that we will continue to share accurate and timely information as soon as we can. But anything we report must be accurate and not speculative. We owe that to everyone involved. For now, our teams are working around the clock to support passengers, crew, and their families, as well as investigators, however we can.
My thoughts, and I'm sure those of the entire House, are with those who've been affected by the tragic plane crash in India this morning. We know that British nationals were on board, and Mr. Speaker, I can confirm that the FCDO is working urgently with local authorities to support British nationals and their families, and has stood up a crisis team in both Delhi and in London.
All right, what we're going to do right now is actually go through some of the footage, and there is actually 2 angles which are now available to show what has actually taken place. So I'm going to run through that footage. If we can we please roll that first new footage which shows the point of, 34 seconds is all that the aircraft flew, and then this is the other angle that you see on the right of the aircraft descending. So it would be nice if we can play this entire video out. So let's play this entire video out, and where you're going to see the aircraft on its takeoff run. So it's picking up velocity over here, and it reaches the point where the pilots believe that they've got enough speed. It's called the decision speed. It's called V1, which is a decision point for the pilots where they pull up and they take off. Now, even if there is a single engine failure, they are trained to operate with one engine. There is enough thrust in that one engine, but something goes dreadfully wrong at this stage and the aircraft starts plummeting. There is a mayday call which is given by the pilots to air traffic control, but at this stage they're fighting for their lives. They're doing everything possible. They're obviously working the thrust of the aircraft, but then they've lost lift. The aircraft is stalled. It's gone down in this residential area beyond the perimeter of the airport. Let's roll the second video. 142 people were on this aircraft. 141 we know have perished, passengers and crew. And again, this is the other angle from another camera where you see the aircraft going down, that huge blast, that huge explosion, I should say, taking place. And DNA tests are now being conducted. That very sad footage of DNA tests being conducted, blood tests being taken of family members, of those the family members giving their blood samples to actually be used in the future when the remains of their loved ones are found. It seems that the remains may not be easy to identify at all. Let's go across to Shiv Arur at this stage, who's got a few more details with us. Now, Shiv, there is, and you've been working on this for some time now, a couple of experts, in fact, not a couple, quite a few, who are pointing to a key part of the configuration of the wings of this aircraft. Flaps generate lift, that is absolutely critical when an aircraft takes off. They have a different purpose when the aircraft comes into land. Yeah. Based on the footage that we've seen, what can you share with us?
You're absolutely right. The experts we've been speaking to, each and every one of them, passenger jet pilots, including at least 3 787 Dreamliner pilots, have all talked about the various complexities that will have to be gone into by the crash probe. But just by virtue of those two videos that we have seen of that horrific crash of Flight 171, they point to the flaps. Now, the flaps are these components of the wing structure that you see here. And if you've ever been on a passenger jet and sat on a window seat near the wing, you've probably noticed these parts of those wing actually extend and bend down. And what they do when they do that is provide a much more surface area to the wing at an angled, at a particular angle, therefore providing more surface area to lift the plane up, because you've got the wind hitting the flaps and it allows the pilots to get the plane to climb much more efficiently. So this is a standard configuration takeoff of a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. This is a Boeing photograph, and I've pointed to the flaps. Now this still image is from that second video that we've seen. And every pilot I've spoken to says this looks like a clean configuration, which means the flaps that you see in that first picture are actually retracted here, which means the aircraft's wing is not in the takeoff configuration. And what that implies is this aircraft did not have the requisite wing configuration with the flaps extended in order to generate the kind of lift needed to put the aircraft in a steady climb. And that perhaps explains why just a few seconds after taking off, it became very apparent that there was something catastrophically wrong. The aircraft, instead of climbing, which it would have done if the flaps were extended, and we don't know the reason just yet, seems to plateau. It flattens out, it levels out, and then simply flies into the ground across just about 32 seconds after taking off. Now, obviously, the crash probe is going to go into why this configuration happened in this manner, because these were very, very qualified pilots. What went catastrophically wrong? The entire sequence of events has been captured on video, and therefore that will be a starting point, perhaps, over what happened to Flight 171. But the flaps will be key to that investigation.
No, they would be key, but the other aspect of this, and there's a sense of disbelief among pilots who I've also been speaking to and who share the same points that you're sharing, that there's something called an improper configuration warning. It's a loud warning, it's an oral warning as well, where pilots would be warned that, if you're taking off, you're in an improper configuration, the flaps are not right, and therefore please fix it. That they proceeded to take off potentially, if this is the reason, despite that, would indicate either that warning never went off or there were some other mistakes, which took place. But again, don't want to get ahead of ourselves. It could also be a mechanical error. Perhaps the pilots felt that they were in the correct flap setting, but perhaps the flaps didn't move to the position that they were supposed to be in. Was there a sensor error as well, which didn't detect the position or the correct position that the flaps were actually in? Was there an electrical concern? These are things which have to be looked at. Now, Boeing has worked this aircraft with multiple redundancies. For even simple mistakes like this, electrical failures or sensor failures, there would be backups and backups to backups. So that's something we're going to have to look at. But Shiv, absolutely, the position of those flaps, if that imagery is correct, and we believe it is, it's something that investigators would clearly be looking at. Thanks very much for sharing those details with us. Let's go back to Dr. Vandana Singh as we bring you that footage once again. Again, lots of pilots now speaking about the position of the flaps. It's something certainly that would need to be investigated, even if that's not the primary cause itself, right, Vandana?
Absolutely, Vishnu. This needs to be investigated. But then again, like we just spoke, the warnings come out loud. So the pilot would not have taken off. It cannot come before that. So that is again a speculation, that is again a question mark. And as I said, electrical, mechanical, or a total software system failure, sudden software system failure could have happened. And of course, the warnings come. But by the time, if he has already taken off, then obviously there is no time there to do anything except call Mayday and then crash. Now, again, I come to one more point, Vishnu, which I was saying, which was that we in India have to make sure our airfields, our airports have enough area around them, whether it's mushy land, whether it's green grass, whether it's muddy area, whatever it is, a certain amount has to be kept off. Like Air Marshal Kapoor mentioned, that has to be kept. It's a security measure. It's a must do. You cannot have structures coming up here and there. If I recall the air crash that happened in Jeju recently, there it hit a solid wall and it went into fumes. And here again, two crew sitting right at the end back, they survived. But my question is, why are there barriers? Why is there area that's being occupied or land being allocated near the aircraft area? It really has to, near the airport area, it has to be siphoned off. It has to be kept for emergency landing. And right now, I don't even know if certain children have passed away at the medical college on where this aircraft landed. So if we would have given some space...
For 1 second, I've got my colleague Ankit Tyagi as well. He is on his way to that crash site. Ankit, any information that you're picking up at this stage? All right, we'll come back to Ankit and... all right, there you are. Go ahead, Ankit.
I'm not able to hear properly from Vishnu for what you're saying at this moment. We have just landed, and I can only give you a sense because there was the suspension of the aircrafts as far as Ahmedabad is concerned. Ours is the first flight from Delhi which has landed at Ahmedabad, and at this moment we are on our way to the crash site. But let me also tell you what we saw. As soon as we landed at the airport, there is still a sense of disbelief in the people there. Some, in fact, I met a couple of people, those who said that they have cancelled their flight. A little bit fear also creeping in there. But a lot of people, in fact, saying that it is absolutely unfortunate. There was a help desk at the airport, but nobody there at this moment. I've been told that most of the people are either at the crash site or at the hospital, where now, of course, 2 survivors have been reported as far as this horrific crash is concerned. It will take us about 5.2 kilometers from the airport that you have. It's a detour that you have to take and reach the crash site, and there has been a lot of VIP movement as well. That's why we are stuck at this moment. But I think in the next 10 minutes or so, we would be at the place where this crash took place. Of course, the night has descended as far as Ahmedabad is concerned, but the only thing that people here are talking about is that unfortunate air crash. Many people, in fact, only talking about some family or somebody that they knew who has passed away in this air crash, Vishnu.
And Ankit, what's really sad now, and we'll play out that footage again, is DNA tests are being conducted on the family members. Their blood samples are being taken because it will be matched with the DNA which is collected from the victims of this crash. And that indicates that the large number of bodies, in fact, perhaps all of those other than the survivor or the survivors, charred beyond recognition, and just identifying the bodies is going to be very difficult, if not impossible.
Absolutely. In fact, what we've been told is that there has been a full hall which has been enclosed as the DNA sample testing place for the people, those who would be coming. Because remember, there are also those 5 who died on the ground. Their bodies also have been told are in a very bad condition, charred beyond recognition. As you were mentioning earlier, there is expectation that tomorrow people, those who were on board this flight, from Delhi, from other places, going towards London, and some of them who boarded this flight from London, their family members from United Kingdom will also be coming in. So in the next 3 to 4 days only, we would be able to get some idea about how many bodies have been given. But what I've been told is that there are still more than a dozen ambulances still at the spot. So it's not that all the bodies have been recovered from the crash site, is what we have been told. But the work there is on as we speak. Many of those remains have been kept at the civil hospital and other hospitals in Ahmedabad. We have been told from the ground as well, from our colleagues, those who have been reporting, local colleagues, those who have been reporting since the afternoon, that the officials are still trying to make sure that all the bodies, all the remains are taken away, and that will possibly, the operation will go on late in the night till early morning before all clearance is given as far as the crash site is concerned, Vishnu.
Ankit, we'll be keeping on coming back to you. You're heading to that area where the crash took place. Stay safe over there, and let's hope we can find out sooner than later if the black boxes have been recovered. In fact, Ankit, if you can help us get that information, because without the black boxes, the investigation process will take more time. So, have the black boxes in this aircraft been recovered? That's a key point that we are looking at. Vandana Singh, back with you at this stage. The fact that it's been so many hours now, 7 odd hours, right? And we still don't know if the black boxes have been recovered. Is that a matter of huge concern for you?
Not really, because this will take time. There must be total chaos over there as we speak. And first thing is to take the bodies, the charred remains out, and the black box, of course, is at the end of is at the tail end. That's where the black box is. And I'm sure this is going to be recovered. This is not a matter of concern to me. What really I'm looking forward is the inputs now, not just of one passenger or two passengers that have survived, to really know what went inside, because this is very, very intriguing as to how an aircraft can take off with flap in that situation without any warnings. How can it do that? It has to be an electrical, mechanical, or a system failure, as I see it. So black box, I think, is going to be recovered shortly. We should have it in possession for the investigation.
Two black boxes at least, right? As I understand it, one in the near the tail assembly of the aircraft and one further ahead.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. We can actually see the tail of the aircraft over there. It's somewhere, in near the tail assembly of the aircraft. A part of that rear empennage was actually stuck in the building. We saw that earlier on as well. Perhaps the black box might be that location. All right, Vandana, we'll keep coming back to you. Thanks very much. Now, just in terms of that's what I was talking about. That's the very rear end of the fuselage. Could the black box actually be located over there? I believe that's where it may well be located, but finding it is something that it's going to take time, and it has to be done very, very carefully and cautiously. The black box is not really black in color. It's either yellow or it's orange, and it's reflective, and it's something which is designed to sustain shock to a certain G-force. It can sustain. It has a battery as well. If it goes underwater, for example, it pings out a certain signal. It is designed to sustain heat to a certain temperature as well. And there are two aspects of the black box. There is the cockpit voice recorder, and there is the digital flight data recorder. The cockpit voice recorder records everything that's going on in the cockpit, the conversations between the pilots. And the digital flight data recorder is an instrument that records more than 1,000 parameters, various aspects of the flight, moment by moment, second by second, of what exactly is happening, where are the control surfaces, how has the aircraft been configured, etc., etc. So all of those are very, very key in terms of the data. If the black box is recovered and if it is not damaged, and that is absolutely key, then it can actually be hooked up to a laptop or a computer within moments, and initial information can actually flow out. The Director General of Civil Aviation and the principal investigator is obviously looking into this, and they'll be working that very, very closely indeed. Wing Commander Gitanjali Singh joins us at this stage. Good evening, Wing Commander. Any initial thoughts on what we are seeing at this stage?
Good evening, Vishnu. Yeah, so the first visual that we have all been seeing, that the aircraft takes off and then it's not able to attain the altitude, as it's supposed to take. and after that it just starts sinking and losing the altitude. But everyone, like when we are watching these visuals, it takes off, now then it starts sinking. Here if you see, there is no bank, no left, no right, it just starts sinking. So that means there's a definite loss of power with both the engines, and to happen that in aviation, losing both the engines is quite, I'll say, the probability of such cases is very, 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 very bleak. So this incident to happen, of course, power loss, both engines at that altitude, losing out the power. So that is why what I can see and foresee as initial from the initial visuals. Of course, like you mentioned about the black box and cockpit voice recorders and the flight data recorder, when it's going to be retrieved, we are going to get more clarity on the same, on the incident causes and all. But yes, of course, the primarily thing will be the investigating team. Over here, if you see, the whole aircraft has been contained. The impact point has been one of the buildings. So empennage is visible, the fuselage is visible. It's not, the debris are not, scattered. There's not a very big impact point or a very huge impact site, as I can say. So to recover these crucial components, to retrieve the information as required for the investigation, I think that would be very soon expedited and would be underway as such, because there's always a timeline and an SOP that is in place whenever an aircraft incident happens. So I think those are my first thoughts on the incident.
Moment, Captain Kishore Chinta, Chief Pilot at Sirius India Airlines Private Limited, also with us. Assuming, Captain Chinta, the black box is recovered soon and it's not damaged, how soon can it be before data can be extracted from that black box, both in terms of the cockpit conversation and data on the flight?
It'll probably take anywhere between 24 to 36 hours if the CVR and the FDR are fairly intact. If there's damage, there is still ways and means to extract all the data, but it would take a longer period of time. But I'm sure the AAIB will be on a war footing to download all the data, and also in all probability a team from NTSB and Boeing would also join the AIB, because it's a Boeing aircraft and US manufactured aircraft. So they would also be giving all possible assistance to download.
Yeah, they already are. So Boeing Airplanes is doing that, the NTSB is doing that, the British regulator is doing that, and obviously our DGCA is at the helm of affairs. Captain Chinta, as we go through that footage, it obviously is clear that the aircraft had enough thrust as it went down the runway. The decision height, a V1, or the decision point was reached by the pilots, and they pulled up, and then something went dreadfully wrong. What could go wrong so catastrophically in that period of time between pulling up at what would obviously be the right airspeed and then, complete 100% loss of power, it seems?
See, Vishnu, we're talking about the General Electric Gen X engine, the next generation engines on the Boeing 787 right now. We're talking about close to 70,000 pounds of thrust on each engine. That's 140,000 pounds of thrust with FADEC and auto throttle. So when they engaged auto throttles and rolled, full thrust would have already been checked. So once it's got unstuck, and we can see a plume of smoke coming out of the engines as it starts gaining height. So at some point of time, something catastrophic has happened in the engines for the loss of power. Yes, we can speculate that it could be a bird or a vulture, anything which went into the engine, because for this kind of colossal loss of power in such short span of time, you would need either some parts of the engine or the fan blades ingested into the engine to shut it down in totality. Minor birds getting in ingestion would not cause this kind of damage. So it has to be probably a bird hit leading to some material failure within the engine, further leading to some form of catastrophic damage within the engine to have this kind of loss of power. But as I said, it's speculative as of now. The FDR will be indicative on how much power was lost, at what point of time, at what altitude. Everything will.
Captain, all I will say in that footage is that if it was a bird hit, and you're talking about a loss of power potentially to both engines, there was no flock of birds which could, do something like that, it appears, in that video. Right? Nothing can be seen. That video is actually quite clear. We don't see anything by way of, it just collapses right there. Now, it could have been a bird hit on the runway. So, the possibilities are immense, and we are only, let's face it, speculating to a certain extent. But, that bird hit theory, who knows what it was? Because if it was early in the takeoff run, then the pilots could have aborted takeoff completely. They would have stopped the aircraft. But it happened very late, and if it impacted both of the engines, then, that would be potentially catastrophic. All right, we're going to take a short break, come back in just a few moments and look at this, and of course continue this point of conversation.